Hello. I know I said a while back I was going to do a review on the Resinsoul Dong that I got, but I got really sick for a while and my meds were changing and just a bunch of crazy stuff. So it took me a really long time to finally get to it, and also I was kind of disappointed about how everything turned out, and I really want to like this doll. And I really like the character. So part of me was like, maybe if I just don't talk about it, it'll somehow get better, which is not how anything works. But I'm finally biting the bullet and making the video. I'm going to preface this by saying that I've handled a lot of Resinsoul / Bobobi dolls that are perfectly fine. I mean, that's part of what's frustrating, is that I know and have personally seen and handled a lot of dolls where it's a really good deal. I mean, they're not on the more expensive end, but you get a doll that's the doll that you want. But in my case, it almost feels like this doll was someone's first time doing one for that company or something. There's just weird quirks about it that I find very off-putting, and I'm kind of debating whether I want to try and mod him into functionality or if I'm just gonna buy a new doll. But if I do get a new doll, I don't know what to do with him, because after I go through my review, you'll kind of understand what I mean. Like, there's nothing technically wrong with the doll, but I would feel kind of shady being like, yes, buy this doll that I personally find super frustrating. Like, I feel kind of sketchy doing that. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. So, I guess I should warn for doll nudity. I find that slightly ridiculous. Like, this is not what I would use in a sex ed class to show you what a penis looks like. They're not that accurate. But anyways, doll nudity. Can't even get him to stand up. Nope, stop that. Anyways, starting from the top, we have, oh, and this is a 70 centimeter doll, so he is kind of tall. Go figure. Head cap is normal, head cap is fine, inside of the head is fine, normal. Oops. There we go. He doesn't have, oh, and I have hot glue sueded him already. That was the first thing I tried. He doesn't go back very far. Goes forward pretty decently. Side, or side, side. He did tend to kind of slide around a little bit. It wasn't a huge deal, and it was a really quick fix, just a little bit of hot glue sueding. But here, let me just like make him go in unnatural ways. So I don't know if you can, or it's actually that way. No, is it not gonna? Nope. Okay, so it doesn't really show up, but there's sort of black flecks under his eye and on his cheek, and they're just sealed in. So I mean, that's kind of annoying, but they're not so bad that like, oh my gosh, he has something wrong with him, you should take him to the hospital, if he were a real person. But at the same time, it's kind of like, could you just not seal in a bunch of little doot-doot-doot? But, you know, I can get over that. I'm not so frustrated by that. That's not the biggest deal to me. Now, if he had like some sort of huge, massive thing, then I'd be like, yeah, you need to redo this. But it's just tiny little, almost like flecks of oil pastel dust, like little tiny ones. But overall, I really do like his face. I think it's super sweet, and I like that. And then he has a really long neck. Just, I was like, oh gosh, come back. Gush. Yes. Oh, gush. That's part of the issue. I thought he was loose because of how much he was flopping over, but he was actually really, really tight. And once I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, there's way too much tension. It's probably just making him crumple. But if you string him any looser than, like, holy cow, I don't know if I can actually get him strung, he doesn't stay together. Like, his joints will fall out. Like, he has to be strung super duper tight, otherwise he can't do anything at all. But between how tight he has to be strung and how his insides are cut out or channeled, which I will discuss more later, it means that he's like this. He just crumples and folds, and I can't get him to straighten up to save my gosh darn life. And here, he's naked now. Like, see? He doesn't do what dolls are supposed to do, or BJDs are supposed to do. Also, he scratches super, super easily. Like, just the little snap I have on the back of the pants. Like, it's not abnormal. It doesn't stick out more than usual or anything. But he'll get scratches. Nope. Oh, you can kind of see a little. It comes off super easily. Just very minimal amount of effort to make that go away. But it's just something to bear in mind. So when you get, and I have sueded his shoulders, he'll do this pretty well, but if it's not all the way up, he just smacks himself at the side. Up is pretty good. Well, up is good, but halfway or lower and it won't stay, both horizontally and vertically. And he's already sueded, like I said. And then we get to his elbows, which is one of the things that make me feel like he's someone's first attempt. Like, saying like a lot, but I'm trying to explain this the best way. It doesn't sit flush. Like, that's as far back, and it doesn't sit flush with the upper arm, the elbow, and the lower arm. There's a little gap there. And the first time I was like, oh crap, I must have switched elbows on him. But it's the same on both of them, no matter which way you do it. It just doesn't sit right. And like I said, like I've said before, that's not the end of the world. But it does sort of contribute to some of the problems he has. His elbows aren't too bad other than the not sitting correctly thing. Not too bad, at least. And then you get to his wrists, which, give me one quick second here. One of them, you see how it curves down slightly right there? Most do. That's not what's weird. What's weird is that on this one, it goes way down, like super far down. I'm not pushing on his hand. It's the ball joint of his hand is barely covered on that side, and it's thinner there and shorter. And then over here, it's more normal, like more of the joint is cupped by the wrist, if that makes sense. And so that means this hand just sort of like snaps this way. It's like, ha! Karate chopping all the time. And then his torso it doesn't, you can make it go back, but not really. And forward is no-go either. And sideways, he actually does not too badly sideways. He can he's best when tilting to the side, but forward and backwards on the upper joint, not so much. I guess it depends on how much you want to pose the upper torso that would affect you. And then we come to this. This is my biggest complaint about him. You go to tilt his legs, and then this does that. If you pick him up, he does like that. this is the most flexible joint in his body, but it flexes all the time, no matter what. The reason for that is he's super, super hollow on the inside. Like, he's very light, but the problem with that is that the points that put pressure on the string inside him are the wrong points for how he should be bending. Like, his legs are so hollow that it puts pressure too far up, and so his legs will bend in weird ways, and it won't catch in his hips for the pivot point. It'll catch up here because it narrows down up here, not in his legs like it's supposed to. So, yeah, he's real fond of face planting and flopping over and everything, but legs go like this and they don't move. Ever. Except when you're like, oh hey, his legs never move, so I'll just move him like this, and then they'll flop on you because this body kind of hates me. And like, I'll try to move him, and what'll happen is it'll pop out of place here and not pivot. And it was like that before sueding, and I thought maybe if I sueded him, at least when I do bend him, he'll hold his positions better. And that's kind of true, but that doesn't change the fact that he bends up here instead of down here. And so I don't know what to do about that. Like, I don't even know. I mean, I'm not a modding type of person. I've done extremely, extremely little. Like, simple ear piercings is my level of experience. So the prospect of almost rebuilding his inner channels for the elastic is a really hazy possibility and fraught with I'd probably mess it up. So that's kind of why I'm not sure if I should keep him as like a learning project for modding, or if I should pass him off with the caveat of there's nothing technically wrong with him, but he also isn't completely functional. I don't know what to do about that. His knees are knees. There's a bit of a gap even when you pop it out the way it's supposed to. He can go like this, which isn't too shabby, and even though this doesn't like completely touch at all points, that curvy bit there does help to create that illusion when he's wearing clothes, so that's nice. His knees are actually pretty flush. I like that. Oh, there he goes again. Just, it tilts up here. It drives me insane. And if I suede that, he won't sit, like, if I sueded it, I don't think I'd get it so smooth that he would sit properly. So, I don't know. And also, there's not a whole lot to suede in there because he is so hollow, because there is so much space in between the walls of his body. So I'm not even sure if that would fix it or not. Right, knees. They do kind of lock, so that's nice. And I think both of them sit pretty... Oh, nope. This one doesn't sit flush. Thought one, yeah. So, if I can get him to straighten up for a second, I will show you what I mean. This knee is kind of like the elbows, except it overhangs a little bit. Like, I can't quite get it lined up. There's always that weird thing, and the light's kind of messing it up. But if you get it on one side, it's sticking out on the other, and vice versa, which ultimately isn't that big of a deal, but it's like another reason that he seems like someone's first, hey, it's your first day on the job kind of thing, as far as the final minute sanding things go. Ankles are ankles. Backwards, forwards. Doesn't really go side to side too much, but I can get him to stand, despite all of this floppy, weird bendiness. Is a little bit of a challenge, and I'm only properly, tentatively I don't even want to say properly comfortable, but I'm only cautiously comfortable when he's leaning against something slightly, or I have a Dika doll Murong that I will actually have him lean against the Dika doll because that's how well my Dika doll will stand. That he can prop up this guy who's like, let me just, ragdoll all over the place. But he can stand. It's just really annoying to get him to do so because of his hips not being the pivot point. And it makes me suspicious. Like, I'm like, yay, but I'm also really suspicious about you doing that for any length of time. Yes. So that's kind of the rundown. And I really like the character, but I'm not crazy about this particular body. And I'm thinking I might replace the body because the mods sound like a lot of work and I'm not overly confident in my ability to even pull it off if I did all of these things. Like, I'm not even 100% sure what I think would fix it would actually fix it. Also, he's really swayed back. Like, he's like, ooh, it's so impressive that I stick my very skinny, alien long chest out at you. He has, ow, 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 ow. He's pinching me because I'm bad-mouthing him, but whatever. I lost track of what I was saying. Yes, he's very swayed back. Some female BJD sculpts will do it, but he kind of has like a girly back position. I think it wouldn't be so noticeable if I could position his torso a little more. Like, if I could get him to lean forward instead of just backwards, but it is what it is. And a lot of these little things don't bother me so much. As I've said, it's just the cumulative effect. And it is 100% impossible for me to restring him myself. It took me and my friend all night, pretty much. He's just so tightly strung. Except his arms. His arms are strung normally. But the rest of him has to be crazy, crazy tight. Otherwise, he straight up won't hold together. So I don't like that. It makes me feel like every time I move him, I'm damaging him because of how tight everything is. And when he snaps hard, so I'm worried he's going to break his own finger off or something. And it's just kind of a bummer, because I like Resinsoul. I like Resinsoul, I like Resinsoul because at one point an acquaintance let me basically babysit one of her BJDs, and I really liked him. He was straightforward as far as BJDs goes. He stood nicely, sat nicely, really smooth, no seam lines. Like, I thought that was what they were by and large going to be, and by and large that is what they are, except this guy. And at one point I did have a Resinsoul, the really small ones, like 1/12, and the pointy ears. I don't remember the name of the sculpt, but and there wasn't anything wrong with that doll. It just wasn't fitting in with my resin family, so it went to my friend Xandra, who actually cameoed briefly in one of my earlier videos. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that doll. That doll was fine. So I'm irritated that Murphy's Law means that the one large doll that I purchased from them is the one that has all these problems. But it's not the end of the world, and eventually I will figure out what I want to do with him and the character moving forward. Yes. So, in a bit, I will be doing a video, kind of an update on Kyra, my New Territories crystal doll. That was my very first my very first ball jointed doll, and kind of an update on or I guess a review slash update on her character and just the doll itself, because you never really hear about new territories, which is sad because they're really awesome. And hopefully sometime soon I will be ordering MSC so I can get face-ups done, because I have all the art supplies and no sealant, which is, you know, not overly helpful. And I think that's everything interesting. And I'm not even going to try and put a timetable on it, because as soon as I do, I will get sick and not be able to do it. That's my new rule. I'm just going to say sometime soon, hopefully. And maybe the universe will be like, we will allow it. It'll be okay. It shall be done. And that is my video. Thank you for listening. And if you have any magic solutions for fixing incorrect bending dolls, let me know. Thank you.